Welcome to Self-Invested, where we talk about how you can do better with money. In this video, I'm going to be talking about some of the key details the government has revealed about the new shared ownership scheme. I'm going to be telling you about how you can give your feedback on what you think about the latest details. And at the end, I'm going to give you my own personal thoughts on the scheme. If this is your first time here, my name's Lemuel, and on this channel we talk all things personal finance, from investing in the stock market to paying off credit card debt and everything in between, including housing. If that sort of thing interests you, then stick around and I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, make sure you give the video a like and subscribe to the channel to get more content like this. Now, this latest development follows the government's announcement in September to make the shared ownership scheme fairer and more transparent by changing three key aspects of the scheme. Firstly, by reducing the minimum share that a shared owner can own in a property. Secondly, heavily reducing the fees associated with staircasing. And thirdly, removing maintenance and repair costs for the first 10 years for shared owners. If you want to find out more about the initial announcement that the government made about the changes to the shared ownership scheme, then I'll leave a link above my head. You should see something pop out from the I button with a link to that video. Also, you'll be able to find a link to that video down in the description. It's called Shared Ownership Scheme Revamped. The latest announcement that the government made on the 19th of November provides more details about the scheme, about how it will work, and just clarifies some of the details that were missing in the initial announcement. It also opens a 4-week consultation to give people who are interested in the scheme or have an interest in the scheme the opportunity to give their feedback on the government's proposals. Now, if you want to, after watching this video, give your feedback to the government about what you think about these changes, I'll leave a link down in the description to their page where you can read more details about the scheme, and it will tell you there how you can actually respond with your own thoughts about the scheme. Now, the first change that the government gave more detail on was their plan to reduce the minimum initial share in a shared ownership home from 25% down to 10%. So currently, if you buy a shared ownership home, the minimum share you can own in a property is 25%. But under the new scheme, the minimum share that you'll be able to own will be 10%. The government has said that they will still encourage housing providers to get shared owners to buy the maximum share of a property that they can own. Now, they say this is to maximize the value for money they get out of the scheme. So this means that if you could own 50% of a property but you only wanted to buy 25% of that property, the housing provider is going to push you. I'm not sure if it's going to be mandatory, but they're definitely going to encourage you strongly to buy 50% of the property. Now, the reason why the government says this is to maximize value for money is because the more of the property that you own, the more of your monthly payments is going to go towards actually owning the property, and less is going to go towards rent, which isn't recoverable in the same way your mortgage repayments are. But I also think that the government want to encourage people to buy the maximum share that they can afford, because the share of the property that you don't own, you pay a subsidised rent on. So they don't want people to be paying a subsidised rent when they are able to actually afford more of the property and don't actually need that subsidy. Now, the second bit of information they revealed about this announcement was that they're no longer going to encourage housing providers to get shared owners to round up their ownership to the nearest 10%. So instead of having to either buy 25% of a property or 30% of a property or 35% or 40% and moving up, let's say in 5% increments or 10% increments, under the new scheme you should be able to buy 27% of a property property. So if you were able to buy 27% before, it's very likely that the housing provider will say that you either have to buy 25% or 30%, which one may be slightly too unaffordable for you, and the other isn't fully making use of the money that you have to buy the largest share that you can. But under the new scheme, you will have that flexibility to buy percentages in between 25 and 30, and basically the 5 and the 10%. Now, the third announcement they made on this change was that they recognize that having a lower stake in your shared ownership home could lead to much higher rates than traditional mortgages, and that they plan to protect borrowers from these unfair rates. Now, they haven't said exactly how they are going to do this, but it's very likely they're going to be working behind the scenes with mortgage lenders to make sure that they provide competitive rates that are comparable to the rates that you currently get. Now, the second change that the government announced they were going to make was by introducing something called gradual starcasing, which will allow you to increase your share of ownership in your home by 1% installments. They also announced that there would be heavily reduced fees with this as well. So the way this usually works when you staircase your ownership in a property is that you need to get a surveyor to do a valuation on your property to see what it's worth, so that the share of the property that you're buying can be calculated. The surveyor usually costs hundreds of pounds, and that's usually at cost to the shared owner. But under this change, the value of the shared ownership home will be calculated using the housing price index, which is an index that shows how house prices change, whether they go up or whether they go down. By using the housing price index to calculate the value of your property, it means that there will no longer be a need to get a surveyor to do a valuation of your property to work out what the value is. This is going to save shared owners hundreds of pounds. Now, the next announcement the government made about this change was that housing providers will not be able to charge shared owners for increasing their share in their property under this gradual staircasing initiative. They won't be able to charge their administration fees, which can usually be around £200. So this again is going to make it a lot cheaper for shared owners to increase their share in a property. However, shared owners will still remain responsible for any legal fees associated with increasing their share in ownership. Now, the next announcement, which is probably the biggest announcement about this change, is that this will be limited to 1% increases each year. Now, if you want to increase your ownership by more than 1%, you will be able to increase it by 5% or more, but you will incur all of the fees that are removed for this gradual 1% increase in ownership. So if you increase your ownership in your shared ownership home by 5% or more, you will have to pay your surveyor costs, and there will be an administration cost from the housing provider. Now, the next change, which I thought could potentially be a massive one, was that the government was going to introduce a 10-year maintenance-free period for shared owners, where they won't have to pay any maintenance or repair costs for the first 10 years of ownership. The reason why I thought this could possibly be a massive change was because I thought this may apply to service charge, which is a charge that leaseholders, owners of properties, have to pay for the maintenance of communal areas. So shared hallways, lifts, shared outdoor spaces, and the cost of maintaining these areas is usually covered by a cost called service charge. And I thought under this change, that shared owners may not have to pay any service charge. Now, I thought it was unlikely, but I hoped it was something that they plan to change, because it's something that shared owners or people that campaign on behalf of shared owners complain about. The fact that although shared owners only own a share of their property, they don't own the property outright, they have to pay 100% of the service charge, which many people think is unfair, and I do also. But this latest clarification or announcement from the government has clarified that shared owners will still be responsible for service charge. Service charge will not be covered under this change. The repairs and maintenance that will be free will be any essential repairs to the external fabric of the building and structural repairs to walls, floors and ceiling stairs inside the home. Also, the 10-year maintenance-free period will also cover essential repair or replacement to internal installations for the supply of water, gas and electricity, and for sanitation, including basins, sinks, baths and sanitary conveniences, but not other fixtures, fittings and appliances for making use of the supply of water, gas and electricity. I believe this means that if you have any issues with your water supply, your gas or electricity supply, then it will be covered under this change. But if you have any issues with the appliances that use these services, such as, let's say, your fridge or your washing machine that makes use of water, or your oven that makes use of gas, then those repairs and replacements will not be covered by the scheme. Also, this change only covers repairs that aren't covered by the new build guarantee. So currently, with most new builds, there's a new build guarantee for 10 years. So if there's any work required to the structure of your building in the first 10 years, then it will be covered under the new build guarantee. But also the internal areas and fixtures and fittings are usually covered by a 2-year guarantee or a 2-year warranty. So if there was any issues with them in that first 2-year period, they would be covered under the new build guarantee. Now, this change doesn't overlap the cover that you get from that guarantee. It covers anything that that guarantee doesn't. This is important because under this change, the shared owner will be responsible in the first instance for paying for the cost of repair or replacement, but then will have to claim back the cost. But if they pay for the replacement or repair of something that's covered under the new build guarantee, they won't be able to reclaim that cost because it won't be in line with the terms of this change. Also, shared owners will only be able to claim for costs up to £500 per year, but they will be able to roll over any allowance that they haven't used from a previous year. So say last year you didn't use any of your repair allowance, then this year you'll be able to make use of £1,000 worth of maintenance allowance. So the fourth change that the government provided more information on was how they were going to make it easier for shared owners to sell their property. Now, this is a big concern of anyone that's interested in the scheme. Under the current scheme, housing associations have the right to sell your property on your behalf for a minimum period of 8 weeks. After that period passes, you then, as a shared owner, have the right or the ability to take it out to the open market to find a buyer. Under the latest announcement that's been made, shared owners will be able to take their property to market after 4 weeks of a housing association trying to sell it. So if the housing association hasn't been able to find a shared ownership buyer after 4 weeks, the shared owner will have the ability to take their property to market to either find a shared ownership buyer, so somebody that will buy a share of the home, or an outright buyer, somebody that will buy 100% of the property, making it no longer a shared ownership property. The new scheme is going to apply to any shared ownership home that receives planning permission after April 2021. This means that the first shared ownership homes under the new scheme are probably not going to be built until April 2022 at the earliest, and it's likely we won't see the majority of shared ownership homes under this new scheme available until after 2022, probably in 2023 or even 2024. So if you are interested in the scheme, you're probably going to have to wait another year before you're able to see any new homes under the new scheme. If you want to give your feedback to the government about the latest details they've announced about the new shared ownership scheme, you have until the 17th of December to have your say. I'll leave a link down in the description to the government's page, which provides more detail about the scheme and how you can actually respond. Now, I can't lie, I am very underwhelmed. Firstly, they talked about how they were going to heavily reduce the fees associated with staircasing, but this only applies to increasing your ownership by 1%. If you want to increase your ownership by any more, 5% or more, then you'll still have to pay all of those fees. So I don't think that's a very helpful change. Also, the government in their announcement in September said that they're going to be removing repair and maintenance costs for shared owners. Now, I thought this was potentially going to be a major improvement on the scheme, where shared owners may not have to pay any service charge. I didn't think it was just going to apply to repairs and essential maintenance of the building. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think it adds much to what shared owners already get, because as I mentioned, with new builds, you get a new building guarantee anyway that covers the first 10 years after a property's been built. And with the new build guarantee, you also get 2 years warranty for your internal fixtures and fittings. So the scheme does add to this, it doesn't overlap it, but I don't think it's great anyway, because it's very unlikely that things are going to go wrong in the first 10 years. Because it's a new building, there's not likely to be much maintenance or repairs required. Where it is needed, I guess it's a good thing, because it will not be at cost to the shared owner. But I don't think it's that great an improvement to the scheme. All I would say is that if I wasn't interested in the shared ownership scheme before this announcement, then I'm not going to change my mind about the scheme now that they've made this announcement. But what do you think? Do you think that this is a really good improvement to the scheme? Or are you on the same page as me? Do you think this latest announcement is very underwhelming? Please let me know down in the comments. Also, let me know if you're going to give any feedback to the government about the scheme. It would be really great if you do, because I guess if you're interested about the scheme, then it makes sense to have your say, because the housing associations and the housing providers are going to definitely have their say. So it's important for individuals like you who may be interested in the scheme to also have your say. So if you are interested in the scheme, make sure you do have your say, and if you do, let me know down in the comments below. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to get more content like this. Anyway, until the next video, take care. Bye.